Toby Cadman, who's joining us from London. Toby Cadman, good to speak with you. First off, are there any legal avenues open to Ms. al Hathloul and her fellow prisoners?
Thank you. As disturbing a decision as it is, there is, of course, still a right of appeal against the decision. So I'm sure her legal team will be considering the appealing against her conviction sentence now. Obviously, the whole way in which this trial has been conducted, the manner in which she has been detained, there have been credible allegations of torture, sexual assault, as we've heard, and some of the evidence against her amounted to confessions that almost certainly were extracted through torture. So I think that the likelihood of a successful appeal is relatively low, or even non-existent. And I think it's going to come down to additional pressure from the international community, from the United Nations, and from countries like the United Kingdom, the EU, and the United States. And so I think that pressure has to come now, even though we're told that she's likely to serve just a couple of months before she's to be released.
Right. I mean, the idea of the appeal, as you rightly say, I think is probably an impossibility. And you mentioned the pressure to be placed on the Saudis, but of course, many of those nations that you mentioned are trading partners with the Saudis. And apart from economic pressure and speaking loudly and angrily about what they've done, they don't often listen to anyone else.
No, they don't. Unfortunately, the Saudis tend to ignore any criticism that's being made and any diplomatic pressure which is put under them. And I think the only thing that they do respond to are, of course, sanctions. And as you've quite rightly said, we are talking about the main trading partners. Of course, we're hoping that a Biden administration will take a very different approach to its relationship with Saudi Arabia. I think the UK approach to Saudi Arabia is deeply shameful, and the EU has put some pressure, but again, not pressure in the right way. Obviously, what Loujain represents is something that the international community needs to get behind. We have talk of Mohammed bin Salman reforming the state, and we see none of that. We see no change to women's rights, no change to democracy and human rights. It's as much of a dictatorship as it's always been. And so the pressure that needs to be made needs to be significant, and it needs to be now, because even if she is released in 2 months, she can quite easily be put back inside. She's being silenced by an oppressive regime, and she's being banned from traveling for 5 years when she's released. So, this is not by any means a victory. This is very, very disturbing. And I think the entire world should be disturbed by what we're seeing in Saudi Arabia.
I mean, entirely right, Toby Cadman. I hope the pressure does mount, and I hope that something can be done. Thank you for your time, Mr. Cadman.